Let's use the time for an applause.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me. So thanks very much for the organizers to give me the opportunity to speak here. It's also an opportunity to meet again friends that I haven't seen for so many years and spend a bit of time with them. So that's great. The presentation is going to be focused mainly on the results of the C3S 34C contract, which is basically the contract that tried to develop this decadal prediction prototype for services. And the list of people that appears there, which is, I think, is not fully comprehensive, but at least tries to make justice to the really nice team of people that made this possible. And I would like to emphasize the key work of the team at DWD, in particular Barbara, who coordinated this contract. I'm not really going to talk about decadal predictions per se, because the philosophy of this contract is summarized in the diagram on the right. And somehow the contract started with the fact that there are real-time decadal prediction systems in Europe that are producing decadal forecasts every year. There are 4 of those. And they are participated in this. The producers participated in this contract. The contract was mainly interested in what happens after those forecasts are available, wherever they are. So somehow the starting point was to identify stakeholder demands and to try to build those examples that can increase the appetite for decadal predictions. So somehow, if you think of Eduardo's presentation and you think of the chestnuts, these are we have a new class of chestnuts, and we are looking for people who might be interested in the smell of those chestnuts. And what we try to do here is to make those chestnuts a bit more palatable. We were lucky and we found some people who were interested in at least smelling those chestnuts. And I'll tell you more about whether they really tried and tasted them afterwards or not. So somehow we interacted with potential users of decadal forecasts. And that wasn't easy because people don't really know what decadal forecasts are. So we talk about, well, we have climate simulations that we start every year. We run for 10 years. We have many members. And, OK, good. Yeah, well, we have projections. So who cares? Right? So where is the point? So explaining this goes well beyond talking about skill and talking about have marvelous data. And I'm going to make it very useful to you. Basically, it starts here. So tell me your problem, and I'll see if I can do something for you. There was also a very interesting interaction with the scientific community, because while we were interested in working with the users, we were also identifying a list of issues that were preventing decadal forecasts to make more, to have a bigger uptake in the community. And we worked a lot on defining standards that can be disseminated among the producers and facilitate the work of exchanging data, producing this data, and verifying this data. And there is a lot of information already in this shiny app here that appears at the bottom. Very quickly, we did a lot of work with the community trying to identify what are those standards that might be meaningful, not just for producing the data, but also to make the data a bit more serviceable, so service-oriented from the producer's side. And again, this is not trivial because decadal predictions are a bit different from projections, they're a bit different from seasonal forecasts. So we needed to identify those minimum standards that would make things a bit more homogeneous. And we focused on things like the focus system characteristics, or how the generation of the product should be done, or also how the user-oriented development should take place. In any case, one of the main actors here is the Met Office as the responsible for the WMO Lead Center for annual to decadal climate prediction. And the Lead Center is a key actor because it's the one that is hosting the predictions that are being made around the world. So it's not just the European providers, but it's everyone around the world who can provide that decadal forecast at some point during the year. And one of the very interesting interactions in this contract with the Lead Center was that the Lead Center was very welcoming with the efforts that we were making in identifying those standards and also in providing them with examples that they could use to go well beyond the data provision service. If we think of those standards, they are useful to address questions that are relevant for the producers. And in particular, there's a question that was posed in this contract that was, is it enough to have 4 real-time systems in Europe, and do we get all the skill that is necessary, or do we get more if we team up with everyone else who is keen on exchanging their real-time data with us? And the answer is that having a bigger party is funnier and is better because the skill is higher. So the kind of standardization of the verification that we managed to get here allowed us to address in a systematic way these kind of questions, and really suggested that we have to go well beyond these 4 real-time systems that we have in Europe. And fortunately, this might be possible if we keep supporting the Lead Center at the Met Office. And this is not a trivial thing, but it's a responsibility of the community. I go now to the examples, and I'll mention the 4 examples that were worked on in during the contract to illustrate what could be the beneficial impact of using decadal climate predictions. The Met Office worked on developing an example for the insurance sector, trying to produce multi-annual forecasts of hurricane activity. And they use the NAO forecasts and to try to provide surrogate estimates of the hurricane activity and its damage over Europe. So that was something that was quite welcomed by the insurance community. There is always a barrier with the insurance community in the sense that the information that they hold is proprietary, and it's very difficult to share and extrapolate these examples to other actors beyond the ones that are participating in the contract. DWD focused on infrastructure, and they tried to identify what is the ability or what is the potential benefit of producing indicators for water management in Germany. And they teamed up with Wuppertal in northern Germany, and they tried to produce multi-annual forecasts of the SPI that appears here. It's an indicator of the water availability, and that's something that they identified as something potentially skillful for this partner. For this stakeholder. CMCC went out and identified that stakeholder they had been already working on, and they asked them what you could be interested in if we could provide you information for the next few years. And the question that was formulated is, can you help us to estimate the stream flow in some of the basins where they have stakes? And the stakeholder was Enel, and they produced multi-annual forecasts for some of these basins, Guadalquivir, Ebro, and the Po Valley in Italy. And that was another example where they could also use surrogate data for surrogate indicators to produce the predictions of the stream flow. At the PSC, we focused on food security with the GRC. They had a very clear demand. We want to know what the food security risks are at the global level for the main crops, wheat, maize, rice. And we had to really make an effort to use the indicators that they told us to use, these two here, which I won't go in detail to say what they mean. But the main point is that somehow we had to go out of our comfort zone and try to produce from tons of data the indicators that have a meaning for the user. Instead of telling the user, well, here there are 300 terabytes of daily data, find your way out, we're here to help you. No, it doesn't help. So it's up to us to really go towards them and try to really address their questions. All this information is available in the C3S website. All the different use cases are documented there. And forecasts using data from the forecasts initialized at the end of 2020 are also available there for one of these, for all those use cases. We also could team up with a European project, a Horizon 2020 project called EUCP, and we could, on one side, consider other use cases that were not originally included in the C3S contract, and it was really interesting to really have this backwards and forwards discussion between the research project and this operational prototype. And in this particular case, we worked on wind energy in North America, which is of interest to EDPR, a renewable energy company. And there is another question that was addressed in that project that was of interest to the C3S contract. That was, what happens after year 10? So we have 10 years of simulations from these forecasts, but we have projections afterwards, and how do we bridge these two things? And JRC was very clear about this. So, well, how do I manage the decadal predictions and the projections after year 10 when basically I might need also information for the full 20 years? And in UCP, one of the developments that took place is the creation of seamless sources of climate information. And this example is taken from papers by Rashad Mahmoud here, but this kind of work was pioneered by Dan Beford, also working in the UCP contract. But Dan is over there, so if you have questions, you can ask him. So quite an innovative way of looking at it, trying to make the most of the data that we have available in the CDS and elsewhere to try to address questions from the users that we never considered. So we never thought that that was interesting, and somehow we had to really address this. This is the list of lessons learned that Anka mentioned. I won't go in detail into them. So somehow the words that I want to say here is that, paraphrasing what is being said in the UK very often, location, location, location. The success depends on users. So it's not people like me who's willing to run decadal forecasts and use hundreds of millions of core hours on a supercomputer that really matters. What really matters is breaking this vicious circle that Eduardo was referring to, the chicken and egg, by putting something different in the middle. So we need a different mindset. And in two European projects that are starting at the beginning of next year, Aspect and Impetus for Change, where several of the people here are involved, we are trying to do this by putting in the middle social sciences, which is missing in most of the discussions. So social scientists can't really make the difference. It won't be easy working with them. It won't be easy for them to work with us either. But we really need to make something different, and that's the intention. So thank you very much.
Paco, thank you very much. In the interest of time, if you don't mind, we'll take your questions to the panel.
Sure.